Good morning. Welcome to Breakfast with Ken for Monday, May 24th, 2021. Brought to you by the great people at Today's Dentistry. 2 words, sedation dentistry. You won't even know you're in the chair. A lot of work gets done. Boom, you're done. Happy days. Dr. Mike O'Neill, absolutely the best at it. Give him a call, make an appointment, 317-849-2933. Remember to hit subscribe, like, ring the bell, all that stuff. Let's talk about sports on this beautiful first day of the week prior to the Indianapolis 500. 105th running coming up this Sunday. We'll talk about it in a minute. Colts camp continues. I don't really know what this is. It's not really a mini camp. It's not really OTAs. What it is kind of a compromise between the players and the coaching staff and the front office. Get some work done, leave the guys to their own devices for the next 8 weeks prior to training camp starting. Get healthy, get ready for that 17-game season. We'll see what happens. They got to stay healthy during this period of time. You can't lose players. If you're the Colts right now, that's the one thing that you cannot have. You've got too many question marks as it is. With Eric Fisher recovering from his repaired Achilles, you've got Hurricane Dio, who's recovering from a torn Achilles. You've got question marks kind of all over the field. You don't know who your third linebacker is. You certainly can't have a guy go on the shelf at this point. Guys have to stay healthy. They have to start camp healthy. That wide receiver core, it's thin enough that you can't afford to lose anybody at this point during the offseason. Hopefully the Colts able to stay healthy. We talked to a lot of Colts last week. They seem like they're in a good place. Frank Reich, good place. Chris Ballard, good place. All the guys that we talked to appear to be focused and ready to try to do something kind of special in 2021. We'll see if they're able to do it, right? This is going to be an interesting season for the Colts. There are a lot, like I said, a lot of boxes that have gone unchecked but might be checked. Kwity Paye, what kind of a rookie is he going to be? Eric Fisher, is he going to be able to play? Is Carson Wentz going to be able to bounce back from a terrible 2021 season where in just 12 games he led the NFL in both interceptions and sacks? Sure, his offensive line with the Eagles, they were hurt, they were a mess. You know what? We'll see what he is for the Colts. Being paired with Frank Reich again. In 2017, that combination worked pretty well. Carson Wentz, the quarterback, for 13 games, and his record during those 13 games, 11-2. We'll see what happens with the Indianapolis Colts. Pres Pritchard is going to host his end-of-season kind of media roundup today at 1 o'clock. You know what we're going to hear. It was a matter of injuries. And it was a matter of injuries. It's not just excuses. When you lose T.J. Warren and Malcolm Brogdon for a significant portion of the season, when Victor Oladipo really can't play at a 100% level, and so he's dealt for Karis LeVert, who couldn't play at all because they found a mass on his kidney that had to be removed, and then he comes back, but then for the play-in games, he's on the COVID list, or on the health and safety list. You know what? You got big problems, right? Domas Sabonis missed some games. One of the only guys, maybe the only guy who played every game was Justin Holiday. You had problems if you're the Pacers. First-year coach. If Pres Pritchard's responsible for anything in this year, that's really a negative, and that was his fault. It's choosing this period of time to replace Nate McMillan. With COVID and in the difference in this season being 72 games and kind of the weirdness of this season, a steady hand at the helm would have been, I think, a prudent move. Nate McMillan's a guy that team had made the playoffs with. They didn't make the playoffs this year, and I think some of that had to do with Nate Bjorkgren being named the head coach. Not that Nate Bjorkgren isn't going to be a good head coach in the NBA, but there were a lot of challenges that were beyond the scope of his control this year. So does Pritchard get a pass for this year? Does Bjorkgren get a pass? Do the Pacers get a pass for this season? I don't think so, but there are certainly some things that they can point to and say, hey, look, you know what? If you're missing 4 out of your 5 starters, you got a problem. That's the way it goes. Lefty, Phiul Mickelson yesterday became the oldest winner in the history of professional golf to win a major, or amateur golf for that matter. 50 years, 11 months, 7 days old. That beats the previous record. Julius Boros won the 1968 PGA at the age of 48. Prior to that, it was old Tom Morris winning the Open Championship in whenever, 18-something or other. Old Tom Morris, not young Tom Morris, old Tom Morris, who in pictures looks really old. I don't know at what point those pictures were taken, but good heavens. Men didn't age gracefully at that point at all. When they turned 40, they looked 70. What are you going to do? And then prior to that, other than that, it was Jack Nicklaus, right? So you've got Lefty, Boris, Old Tom, and Jack as the four oldest guys to win majors. Lefty wins yesterday, shoots a final round 73, and beats Louis Oosthuizen. And what a beautiful day. I mean, good for Phiul Mickelson shooting that 73. It was good enough. And that's all you got to do in golf is be good enough. And Phiul Mickelson was yesterday. And if you had a premonition that Phiul Mickelson was going to win that thing and you put $100 on Phiul Mickelson at a sports book, today you got 30 large in your pocket. $30,000 for a $100 bet. How about that? He was 300 to 1. Scott Dixon's going to be on the pole for the 105th running of the Indianapolis 500. If you're outside central Indiana, the Indy 500 is kind of nostalgic, right? Not really unless you're a great race fan, not terribly important. But in central Indiana, it's absolutely huge. 135,000 people are going to be out there this coming Sunday for the 105th running of that historic race. First one in 1911. And this one, Dixon at the age of 40 on the pole. And then he is joined on the front row by Colton Herta, who's 21 years old, and then Rinus VeeKay, who's just 20 years old. So there's, Dixon, Elio was in the Fast Nine, Tony Kanaan in the Fast Nine. You got some of the old guard still running up front. And then you've got these new guys who are absolutely fantastic. Colton Herta, the typical IndyCar driver, extremely smart, but sort of quiet and reserved. And it seems like a lot of these guys are. You've got personalities like Graham Rahal and Tony Kanaan they like to talk. And then you've got guys like Scott Dixon and Colton Herta who don't get excited about anything. And I think that's the correct metabolism for a guy who's going to run 237, 238 miles an hour during qualification runs. Dixon, that's the way he rolls. Fourth time winning a pole at Indy. Good for him. The Cubs, they beat the Cardinals last night 2-1. Javi Baez hit a 2-run homer in the top of the 10th. The Cardinals followed with a run in the bottom of the 10th but couldn't get over the hump. So the Cubs take the series against the Cardinals, and they cut the Cardinals' lead in the National League Central to just 2 games. Interesting news out of kind of college basketball, but really high school basketball. There's a professional league that's a startup. It's the Overtime Elite League, and 2 kids from Florida, highly ranked underclassmen, would have been high school graduates in the year 2023. They have signed to play in this league, which serves as an alternative to high school basketball for kids who want to make money and train in basketball specifically. And people are going to lose their minds and think that this is a death knell for college basketball. But here's the thing with college basketball. People root for the name on the front of the jersey, not the name on the back necessarily. And if you don't have guys like, let's say, Zion Williamson. When Zion Williamson went to Duke, nobody knew who in the hell he was until he was playing at Duke. It's kind of like what A.J. Foyt always says about the Indy 500. A.J. Foyt didn't make the Indy 500. The Indy 500 made A.J. Foyt. Duke basketball wasn't made by Zion Williamson. Duke basketball kind of made Zion Williamson. College basketball's got nothing to worry about. So what if you lose some talented players to Overtime Elite or to the G League? It just doesn't matter. We're still going to root for Indiana. We're still going to root for Kentucky and Duke and North Carolina and Ohio State and Michigan and all the teams in big-time college basketball because we have an affinity for their college basketball programs and for those schools. Spent 6 years in Bloomington, for God's sake. Am I going to root for some 12-year-old, who chooses to play in a startup high school basketball league? Or am I going to root for guys who wear the Indiana University jersey? That's easy. I'm rooting for Indiana, right? You're rooting for Duke. You're rooting for Kentucky. You're rooting for Kansas. You're rooting for UCLA. It just doesn't matter. It doesn't make any difference whether the top 20 players in high school basketball and then in college basketball don't play college basketball. It doesn't make any difference. You've got all these other guys who are going to play. And do we really know the difference between the 40th ranked guy or 20th ranked guy and the 150th ranked guy? The answer is no, we do not. Victor Oladipo ranked 150th. He was pretty good. It's all going to work out, and it's all going to be fine. College basketball is going to be fine. Let's celebrate some birthdays on this wonderful Monday in Central Indiana. Ryan McBee, happy birthday. Charlotte Batts, happy birthday. Joey Burkle, Josh Giacchis, happy birthday. Jerry Krasnick, celebrating a birthday. J.J. Dooling, happy birthday. Sandra Soria, celebrating a birthday. The great Karen Atkinson of Pacers Sports and Entertainment, celebrating a birthday. And Jason Steeman, happy birthday. If today's your birthday, you celebrate like hell. If it's not your birthday, you celebrate somebody else. That is best done with an honest and specific compliment. Today, Kevin Pritchard joining the show. Can't wait to hear what he has to say about the future of the franchise that he runs, the Indiana Pacers. The NBA's got a problem, right? And that problem is small market teams have a very, very difficult time competing. And you saw that last night. Utah, the number one seed in the West, right? Does anybody believe that they're going to come out of the West and play in the NBA Finals? No. Memphis beat them last night. Utah is going to have a very, very tough time getting to the finals. Milwaukee is going to have a tough time getting to the finals too. Small market NBA teams have a massive challenge. They have to get incredibly lucky in the draft in order to be able to compete at a high level and get to the NBA Finals. Really, really tough. And to win an NBA championship without one of the best 3 to 5 players in the NBA, virtually impossible. The only time since 1980 it's happened, the 2004 Detroit Pistons. That's it. Otherwise, you better have one of the best players in the league, and getting one of those guys is virtually impossible for a team like the Indiana Pacers, who are always just good enough to be outside the top 9 in the draft. They haven't drafted in the top 9 in the last 30 years. How in the world are they going to get players good enough, or a player good enough, to lead their team to an NBA championship? It's impossible. In baseball, it can be done. In football, it's regularly done because football's got a hard cap, and the NBA needs a hard cap, but there's no way that that happens. Absolutely no chance that the Players Association allows the NBA to implement a hard cap. There would be a multi-year work stoppage before the players would be motivated to accept a hard cap as part of the next CBA. It's just impossible. We'll continue to talk about that stuff, and we'll hear from Kevin Pritchard at about 3 o'clock this afternoon when this posts Inside Indiana Sports Now. Live, we'll hear from him at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Talk to you then.